All right, today I've kind of wanted to test out this little exercise. The exercise works, but I'm seeing how it works on a video. So what I'm going to do, we are going to practice reading Omaha hands with an exercise that you can do at home in order to get better at this. And we're going to do it together right now. So I'll provide these insights as we do it, and then you can do this at home. All you got to do is shuffle a deck. All right, now normally what I would say you do is I would say that you have a couple of chips down here, and you burn a card just to make it normal. Bring your flop. For me, this angle is crazy because I'm the way that the video is set up. This is the best that I could do. So I'm not going to bring a board like that moving forward. What I want is I'm going to put the board down here. I just wanted to show that a little bit. All right. So I'll put the board down here. And here's a little exercise that you can do. All right, you've got your cards over here. So now, here's the board, okay? And what we're going to do is I'm going to deal out Omaha hands, and then we're going to literally just compare them and see what wins, all right? And then we've got more cards in the deck, so once we figure out what the best hand is, we're just going to do Omaha high to start. Once we figure out what the best hand is, then we move on. And you can look at it with me. So I'm going to talk through my thought process here. Thing one that I look at is the board paired. The answer is no. So there's not going to be any full houses. Thing two I look at, are there any possible flushes? The answer is no. Thing three, are there possible straights? The answer is yes. So what are the possible straights? So in this case, I can see right here, 6, 7, 10, and 8, 9 would be a straight. I can see a 5, 8, or a 5, 3 would be a straight. So now I'm looking for these things, right? And instantly I find it right here. Once I find this, I don't have to worry about other stuff. But after that, I do know that that the next best thing would be a pocket pair for 3 of a kind if someone flopped a set or had a set. So what I want to do though is I do want to read all of these hands. So this right here, this is a 5-8. This is a straight, an 8 high straight. Okay. This hand over here, let's just read it together so that we can say what the hand is. So the thing that I keep doing is I keep noticing there's a 5 here. I know how important a 5 is to a straight in this particular board. There's no straight that's made with this 5. Their actual hand ends up being, now remember, you can only, in Omaha, you can only use 2 from your hand and 3 from the board, okay? There's no exceptions to that. Only 2 from your hand and 3 from your board all the time. So in this case here, we have aces with a king. So aces with a king, because I'm using these 2 from here, 10, 7, right? And if I were doing this properly, I would frame it. So I do recommend we frame it, right? So here, the hand that we had was an 8 high straight, and I recommend that we frame it, okay, by pulling the cards down in order to frame, just to help ourselves. But this one's not as good, so I'm going to muck it. And this one over here, the question is, what hand do they have? The hand that I see for them when I glance at it is jacks. Don't be afraid to take a little extra time when you're learning and practicing, but here there's a pair of jacks, and this is with an ace 10 7, okay? So now what we're going to do is we put the best hand over here. We should slide it over. Best hand over here. We remember that we can only use 2 from your hand and 3 from the board, and we're going to bring additional cards here. And for me, when I see an 8, I'm looking for a 9. If they have a 9, it's a straight. If they have a 5, it's a straight. Still, this is the only one that has it. Now, just for the practice here, I'm going to say, well, what do they have here? So when I look at this hand here, I see just a pair of 7s, and the jack would be the kicker. They don't have anything other than that. Why is that? Because I've looked at this, and I know the key cards here are 8, 9 together, or a 5 with either a 3 or a... And then other than that, it's just pairs, so all they have is a pair. So their hand right here, let's see if you can do it with me. Pair of 7s with a ace, jack, 10, right? And then we can muck this, and then we go over here, and we've got this one. So here, they have an interesting dynamic. They don't have a straight, same problem, okay? They do have a 6 for a pair of 6s, but their pair of 8s actually in their hand is even better. So here they've got a pair of 8s with an ace, 10, 7. No good. So now I'm going to start to go a little bit quicker, and I'm only looking to see if they have this hand beat. They don't. This one has aces. So let's muck it. Next one. I'm going to do 2 at a time just to keep things going. So here I'm looking for the same thing. The 9 was there. I didn't see an 8 with it. I think all the 8s are burned in this deck. So the hand that they have looks like 2 pair 7s and 4s. Not a terrible hand, but that's all that they've got. You can always go back and watch this later if you'd like. Here I see 10s and 4s for 2 pair, even though there's 3s in their hand, doesn't matter. They didn't have any of the cards they need for a straight. There's a 9, didn't matter. And so here we've got, I'm reading these here. Normally when I'm playing this game, I'm just seeing if I can beat the hand that's winning, right? So we'll do that after this. Right now I just want to practice reading these hands for you guys. So this is a pair of 9s with an ace 10 7. And this is a pair of 3 of a kind 6s. This is pretty strong. They have 3 of a kind 6s. Notice that this is not a full house. Okay, yes, they have a 4 here, but in order to have a full house, they would have to use 3 cards from their hand, which we do not allow in Omaha. There are no exceptions to that. And here we have a pair of queens. The 10 doesn't matter in this case. And then just for fun, let's take this with a random card from here. Make one more hand out of it. Can you guys see this? I'm not sure. Just for fun. Because he had 3 cards left that were burn cards, and the goal here is to read as many hands as possible. So does anybody see what hand this ends up being? It is a straight. It's not as good as the 8 high straight because it's a 7 high straight. But still pretty good. Alright, let's do it again, and I'm going to go a bit faster. And I want to see if anybody watching with me or watching later can follow along with this and keep up. So I'm going to shuffle these nice and good. Shuffle, shuffle, shuffle. Alright. Alright, so I'm just going to bring a board just like this to get something on the camera. Alright, this one's pretty simple too. We're going to go quick because this one's simple. Now, you should know you're looking for either a 9-8, a 9-king. I'm sorry, yeah, an 8-9, a 9-king, or an ace-king would be the best here. And so I'm going to deal out 3 hands, and we'll just kind of see what we end up with. So in this case, it looks like the best hand that I can see is, I'm seeing a 2 pair is the best. So I see 10s and jacks over here. So get rid of this. I'll take the 10s and jacks and put them up in the lead. And again, we're just practicing reading these Omaha hands. Oh, I see an ace. I didn't see another king. I see an ace. I did not see a king. I saw an 8, but I didn't see a 9. So that's how I'm kind of thinking about this. I'm just seeing, do they have the best hand here? So in this case, the 10s are not strong enough. The aces don't beat 2 pair. So let's keep going. Oh, there's a 9, there's an 8. Oh, there's a king. So they got a king high straight. See if you can see that too. And here they do have 3 of a kind jacks, but not a full house because the board's not paired. So now we get rid of this one, we move this over, and just to be clear, yes, they have the 9-8 for the lower end of the straight, but they're actually going to use the 9 and the king for the higher straight. So now, literally, there's a second best hand, and we are just looking to either tie it or to beat it. Didn't happen, it was close there, right? So I'll get rid of that one. Oh, there's a king. Oh, too many cards. Let's see. And we probably have 3 left, so I'll just grab one random one to go with it. And nope, we didn't beat it. So notice we didn't get the nuts, but we got pretty close. All right, let's do it again. Maybe we'll get something more interesting where there's some possible flushes or something like that. And I can always change a board card and we can do it, you know. But I think it's more fun when it's natural. Because then it feels more like this could really happen and it's going to be common. We're going to see some cool stuff. All right. Ooh, all right. So in this case, we have possible flush, right? You guys see it? I'm going to put out 3 hands. So the first thing I'm looking for is hearts. I don't see hearts, so now I have to look for what's next. So I'm challenging myself. I look at this board and I can clearly see a 9 is a key card here. So a 9 with a queen is going to be a straight. A 9 with a 7 would be a lower straight. Now these both have both of those combinations, so they're both going to have a straight, and so far we're tied here. The 9 queen and the 9 queen, right? And so this one's going to be relatively simple. Once we see 2 hearts together, we know we got ourselves a flush. And if we see a queen 9 again, then we say, oh, that's tied. There's the 9. Oh, queen 9, but this is a flush. So even though it's a straight, it's not a straight flush. It's just a flush, right? So now that one's winning. And here we go. Let's do it some more. And we're only looking for hearts now because hearts are the only thing that are going to beat anything here. Now, if you want to read all these hands to yourself, you go right ahead. Here's a lower flush, the 8, 3 of hearts. I guess I'm not positive that that shows up on camera. Yeah, it's there. You can see it. Let me move this over a little bit. I got to keep in mind where to go. Nope, no hearts. And we got 3 cards left. Ooh. All right, now we got to just draw 1 to get a heart. Nope, didn't happen. So the queen high flush ended up being the winner there. All right, so that was a little bit different. We got some good experience with that. Let's do it again. Again, we are giving ourselves a method to get better at reading Omaha hands. All right. If you're wondering about my ponytail, Jazz did it. And I was okay with it because we're all at home right now, right? It's not like not any of us are on video. So here we got the board paired. We have 3 hearts. This is a much more intricate hand, okay? So there's a possible straight. There's all kinds of stuff. So the first thing I'm doing is I'm looking for a queen. The next thing I'm doing is seeing if one of the other cards pair the queen. So in this case, the queen's here, 3 of a kind queens, but that's it. There's no full house. So we got to look at what else there might be. So I do see in this hand there's a jack and a 9. That's a straight. We're going to hold on to that for a second though, because over here we see 2 hearts which make a flush. And over here, whenever there's a pair on the board, a pocket pair has a chance of being a full house. So that's always important to look at. But in this case, they don't have a full house because there's no 2 on the board. So it looks like the flush is in the lead so far. So let's move this over, make sure it's still in the shot, and see what else we come up with. Well, we already have a higher flush, so now we can kill this one, right? And here, so we've got pair of 7s, but there's no 7 on the board, pair of 6s, but there's no 6 on the board. Neither of them had that queen. We know there's only 1 queen left in the deck. Not that that's really that relevant. Ooh, we just found something that was better. So over here we got a pair of kings. That creates a full house. So that's quite a strong hand there. We might not be able to beat that one. In fact, we know that that's the nuts. There's nothing that's going to beat that. And by the nuts, it's not technically the nuts, but we know that one of the queens is already out, right? We're going through the whole deck once. This is another full house, 10's full. This person might end up losing some money in this hand if they're not as familiar with Omaha. And we do that, and let's go random one here. So here we do have another full house too. We got queens full of 10's. This person could end up losing some money there as well. Not as good as kings full of queens. This can happen in Omaha too, in case you're new to Omaha. This is a straight here, in case you didn't see it. The ace jack does create a straight. All right, that was more interesting, right? We got to see some scenarios there that play out. Now let's add the low, all right? So we're gonna do high-low instead. Just a little shuffle action. It's a good way to practice your shuffling. All right, so we'll go like this, put these cards here. All right, so in case you don't know, a low requires there to be 5 different valued cards, meaning, you know, a pair does not count as 2, it only counts as 1. Like a pair of aces would only be 1 ace in that case. You need 5 separate cards using 2 from your hand and 3 from the board that are 8 or lower. So, for example, right here we have an 8, a 7, a 6, and an ace. Okay, so there are 4 cards in this case that are below or that are 8 or lower, that means that you only need 3. This one has 4. And I know that there's a 7 here and a 7 here, but again, when it's a pair, we don't count it twice, okay? So in this case, there are 4 different numbers, 8 or lower, and we only need 3 of them. So 3 from the board, 2 from the hand create a low. The lowest hand wins half the pot, and the highest hand wins half the pot, okay? So here what we're looking for is a few different things at once. We're looking for the highest hand and the lowest hand. So I'm going to keep the highest hand on this side, and we'll put the lowest hand on this side. It's good to look for the high first. A lot of people just want to find that low. I would train yourself, especially if you're new to this, look for the high hand first. That is that is the normal way to go about this. That's what I'll say. So in this case, the high hand, we have 2 7s. So I look over here and I see there's a third 7 here. We don't have any possible flush. I don't see with that 7 any other pairs, so that means that they're not going to have a full house. So then we would move on to other types of hands that might be bigger. Oh, but over here we have a pair of 8s. So this is going to be 8s full of 7s. And that right there turns into a pretty big full house. Let me just read this hand just for the heck of it though. Here they have a straight. It's a 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Just worth mentioning that. Here, this is going to end up being the low. The nut low is going to be the 2 individual cards that are higher than whatever the lowest is. So in this case, it goes ace 6. So the low that this player has here is a 7, 6, 3, 2 ace. 7, 6, trey deuce ace, right? And in this case, the 3 deuces, anyone that has a 3, 2 together, they're gonna get a piece of the low. So they're gonna be getting half the pot, or they might get less than half the pot if they have to split that with somebody. All right, so let's do this. We talked about what's winning. The 8's full is winning over here. And these are pretty close to nut hands. They're pretty strong, right? Let's move this over a little so I get some room. I'd like to be able to do more than one at a time, but I don't think we'll be able to. So here, this has a 7, but there's no other pair, and the 8's full is even higher than 7's full would be, so we're not that worried about it. Here we have, so basically at this point, all we're looking for is just deuce tray for the low and something better than 8's full for the high, which maybe pocket aces would do. So when I saw that first ace, that's all that's really left, right? So this doesn't have it. That doesn't have it. That was close. That was a 4 deuce. Oh, this is going to chop for the low. So we got 2 low hands right here. I'm going to kind of put it awkwardly right there. Go like this. Just so we can see. And that way I still have room for another. The 8, 9, nope. It's a pretty looking hand, but nope. Oh, if there's an ace, nope. And we just pick a random card. All right. So here, just to show you the difference here, this hand right here has a 7, 6, 4 deuce ace, right? The 5 doesn't matter. It's the lowest that you can get using only 2 from your hand, and that is not low enough. So what would happen in this hand is this player would win the high all by themselves. These 2 players would chop the low. So they would get a quarter of the pot each. All right, let's do that again. So now we are going to give it a shot. I'm curious how this video is coming out, by the way. We're going to give this a shot for maybe 3 of a kind on the board or something a little interesting. That there's some types of boards that become not intuitive. Ooh, here's an interesting one. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to change a card on this. Let's see, we'll do that so that we can kind of differentiate between Hold'em and Omaha a little bit. So in this case, question, is there a low? What I should say is there a possible low? The answer is no. There's only 2 cards, 7 and 4, 2 cards below or that are 8 or lower, And even though there's 2 4s, technically there's 3 cards. You can say, well, if there's a pair, you only count 1 of them, not 2 of them, all right? So now we're just looking for a high. So what we're going to do is we're going to deal out some hands, and we'll see what we end up with, okay? I'm just going to verify that these can all be seen. So over here, now in Hold'em, we're used to this hand being a full house, right? Because we would go like this and it'd be 4s full of jacks. But in Omaha, it doesn't work that way because you can only use 3 from the board. You cannot use 4 from the board. So in this case, this hand right here is 3 of a kind 4s, okay? They don't get to use the pair of jacks. They can only use 1 jack. So it would be 3 of a kind 4s, and they're going to use a 6 in their hand as well. So it's going to look like this, all right? Over here, and in this board, there's no possible straights. If there was a possible straight, this would be probably a bit more interesting. But over here, this hand is not going to beat 3 of a kind 4s. We can see that already. So I'm going to get rid of it. Just because this is a little bit confusing, I'll read what this hand is right here. This hand right here is going to be jacks with a king 10 7. Right? Again, you can't use both of these 4s if you're using both of the jacks. That would be too many cards. And notice that there's no possible flush on this board either. And then this hand over here is going to be, I mean, in this case, we're pretty much just looking for pocket 7s, a jack, a 4. And with the jack and 4, if they have a 7 in their hand or a 4 in their hand, or a jack in their hand, whichever one the other one is, then it makes it a lot stronger, right? So let's see. This hand right here, just so that we can say what the hand actually is, they appear to have a pair of jacks with a 7, 10 9. That's it. All right. Again, there's no low on this one because you don't have enough low cards on the board, period. So here we're looking for jacks and 4s. We don't see them. So these are not going to beat the 3 of a kind 4s. Pair of 8s, doesn't matter. Let's see. We do have a 7. So this hand's not terrible over here. You got jacks and 7s. It's 2 pair instead of 1 pair like a lot of the other hands make, but still not that significant. This one, just same thing. It's 6s. So jacks and 6s. Ooh, there's a jack. Do we see anything else that matches? No. So this is just 3 of a kind jacks. However, it is beating 3 of a kind 4s. So we'll take this away. So this would be 3 of a kind jacks with an ace. Somewhat strong of a hand for this board. Again, this is not intuitive in a lot of ways like we're used to with Hold'em. This one has a 7. If it had another 7, that would be a full house. So this right here, we've got ourselves a full house, right? If we get rid of the 2 jacks, we have 4s full of 7s. So we have ourselves a full house here. And they needed to be able to pair 2 cards on the board in order to get that. And here we go with this. Oop, what did I do? Oh, I burned a card. It's kind of funny. And then here we've got this one right here. We've got 3 of a kind jacks, but there's nothing else that matches it, so there's no full house there. So this hand over here won with 4s full of 7s. And that's a pretty good example because we get so used to a certain dynamic and certain dynamics in Hold'em that when we see something like that, we can get a little bit confused. Now I'm going to probably create one more example hand, see if I can get lucky and have it show up on its own, but I doubt it. But let's see. Alright, sure didn't show up at all. I'm going to just put cards out until I get what I'm looking for. I'm just curious. Alright, here we go. Nope, I don't want that. This is just kind of a fun way to do it. You guys will see what I'm going for in a second. Boy, how many cards do we need? Alright, this will work. So I'm going to take these cards, these 3 deuces. So we got deuce, deuce, deuce. And we're going to take ace. And we're going to say 6 of spades. And we'll make it like this. Alright. So this is going to be our board. Now I think what I want to do is I want to shuffle the rest of the cards in my hand. And let's see. Why not? So here we go. So the things that we're looking for here are, you know, I'm gonna put this back in the deck. I'm gonna put this way down in the deck because I don't want that to come out yet. All right, we know that somebody's gonna have that, but we're looking for highs and lows and yos and well, not highs and lows and yos. Okay, so first we can have a possible low. What would that low be is the question. In this case, it's going to be a 4-3 or 4 tray, right? That's the lowest possible hand that we can get. However, anything that has 2 low cards that are not matching the board because there's an ace, a deuce, and a 6 up here does qualify as a low. All right. Now, something that we get used to in Hold'em is right here. This hand right here, if we're in Hold'em mode, this is going to be a full house. Deuce is full of aces, but that would require 1, 2, 3, 4 cards from the board. Can't do it. Okay. So in this case, this hand right here is, believe it or not, going to be 3 of a kind deuces. Those are all the cards on the board that you can use to make your highest hand with an ace king. All right, even though there's an ace here, these are the ones that count. So that's just 3 of a kind. Currently, that's the first one we evaluated. That's the high. Here we have same type of problem. Ace jack, not as high, but this hand does have a low 7-4, so it's a 7-6. 4 deuce ace. All right, so this is the low so far. Now here we have a better high. Tell me if you see it. And we also have a low that is not as good. So in this case, I'm going to start with the high. The high, in case you don't see it, is a flush. And this is fascinating if you're not used to Omaha because you've got an ace here and an ace here, and you're used to these being full houses in Hold'em, but they are not full houses in Omaha, because you must use 2 from your hand. In this case, there's a flush, just like that. Uses 2 from the hand. So this is going to be the high, so I'm going to get rid of this. And in terms of the low, it has an 8 and a 3. Now, you might be wondering, which is better low, a 7, 6, 4 deuce ace? That doesn't go as low as the 3, right? The 8, 6 tray deuce ace goes kind of lower, but when you read a low hand, you do it just like I'm doing it with the highest card first. And you want to, the first moment that you say something lower, that means that hand is winning. So in this case, the first thing is 7 here. So this is a 7 low compared to an 8 low. So this is still the low out of everything we have here. All right. And this is the high with a flush. And now we'll keep going. So what is it we're looking for here for high cards? We're looking for exactly what we just got, a pair. Okay. So in this case right here, we have deuces, well, in this case, because there's a pair here and it matches one on the board, we've got 6s full of deuces, right? If this were, let's see, if this were any other pair that didn't match one on the board, then it would be deuces full of that pair. That's how you get full houses. As a dealer, you look for, when you see 3 of a kind on the board, you just look for that right away. And this one does not have a low because it only has 4 total cards that it can work with. 6, same over here, 4, deuce ace. So this is now the high. It beats the flush. And we'll put this over here. And now for the high, we're only looking basically for the deuce or pocket aces. And in this case, because we're dealing out all the cards in the deck, we do know we're going to get there. So this is a pretty noticeable hand here. It's a full house, deuces full of 5s, not strong enough. There is no low. They only have a single 5 that could be used toward the low. This is no low, and they're also, it's not better than 6 is full. If it gets an ace, nope. So again, same thing. All right, so here we get 4 of a kind, of course, and there's also a 5 tray. So now this one's actually winning both. The 5, so that we know that the 4 of a kind deuces with a 7, right? Just so we can still be clear, it's deuces with a 7. We know the 4 of a kind deuces with a 7 is winning. We also know that the 6-5 tray deuce ace is lower than the 7-4. It starts with a 6, right? So we can get rid of both of these because this one's winning. And now all that we're really looking for in this particular game is a four tray for the low, which we just found right here, right? So just to remind you, deuces full of 8s would be this hand. Here's the 4 tray, and unless we get another 4 tray, which is you call it a 6-4, but you kind of call it a 4 tray. It's just simpler that way. And that's going to be everything. All right, so that was, so then, oh yeah, I should just go over this real quick. So each of these would get half the pot, right? So remember, 2 cards from your hand, 3 from the board. Now I'm going to do this once for Hold'em, just for the heck of it. For anybody that wants to practice reading Hold'em hands this way, you can do it too. It's super quick, a little bit simpler. And it looks kind of like this. All right, so we're going to put our board out here, and then we just go like this. And here we're looking for, so this is a little different. In Hold'em, the hands don't get as close to the nuts, so you can kind of just read them, right? So here it's 7s with an ace, king, queen. This one doesn't beat that. This one, almost a straight, didn't beat it. This one is 7s and 5s. So we know we've got, because we see our pair here. And it's going to frame it like that. So now we just kind of like put out hands, right? We'll go like that. So now we see queens. They're beating the 2 pair of the 5. So it's queens and 7s. The 9-3 doesn't do anything. The 4s don't do anything. There's no possible straights or flushes on this board. So so here we see the 3 of a kind 7s. This was kings and 7s, but it's not as good. We can read this a lot quicker because Hold'em is a little bit simpler, right? It's a fun little game in Hold'em if you want to do this exercise and see how often you get close to the real nuts in Hold'em. Almost as a poker player for personal interest. So here's 3 of a kind jacks. 3 of a kind 7s, and the jack doesn't play, so it's still gonna chop, right? Because it's 7-7-7, king queen. That's the 5-card poker hand. And here's aces, but they don't win. And what are we looking for now? We're basically looking for full houses. That's it. So if this 5 came with a 7, which it can't because they're both over there, but maybe if it was pocket 5s, that's just about all that we're going to have here. That's going to beat it. I'm just kind of killing them because I see that they're not winning. And kings and 7s. And this, it might help you if you actually read the whole hand for every single hand. But that's what we got here. And, there's one other way to do this that I don't really have room for here, but I do want to show you. So you could do this if you have space for it. So the other thing that you can do is, let's see how much room we actually have to do this. So if I deal out, I'm going to kind of do it so that there's a lot of space, right? If I deal out, these are all Omaha hands, okay? I'm kind of arranging them nicely here. I'm not sure that we can see up here. We'll find out in a moment. I'll move this if I need to. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You would do this with 8 hands just because of how many cards are actually in the deck. So just as a heads up, do this with 8 hands. Let's see, can't quite see this one. Can't quite see this one, that should be better. So, all right. So right here, the way this is all set up, you can see out here a little bit, gives me more room. So what you could do is you get these 8 hands going around the table. You do it with more space if I were you. Then what you do is you put a board in between and you see what wins. All right, so I don't have room to do it nice the way that I normally do. because I'm trying to do this on camera. But here's the board. And what you do is, I'm just going to worry about the high for a moment to make it simple. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through process of elimination and see what wins. So what is it I'm looking for? I see clubs. I see a pair on the board. So I'm looking around right now the table for clubs. And I'm looking around on the table for deuces. I see a deuce here, but there's no other card that goes with it that matches. Same thing here. So there are 3 of a kind deuces on both of these hands, but that's not going to be good enough. So now I'm looking for clubs. Remarkably, with 8 hands out, I don't see clubs, so we don't have a flush there. So now I'm not going to kill any hands here because there's a little game that we're playing. So last thing I'm doing just real quick is I'm looking for board or pocket pairs to see if any of them match. So I don't see any pairs that match. And what ends up winning over here looks like it's the deuce queen. So this queen kicker is going to end up playing, and this board's going to that hand. So I'll give you a second if you want, just to see that you are on the same page as me. But it's 3 of a kind here. I went through my whole process of elimination, seeing what can beat 3 of a kind. Pocket pairs that match the board were not there. Clubs were not there. So now I'm taking this whole board and I am giving it to this hand right here that won. Kind of putting it on the rail. Now I deal my next board for all of these hands. And we can see, ooh, that's interesting, right? So now because I don't have the whole deck out, it's not guaranteed that the 9's going to be here, but it turns out that this is here. So we have that. Just to say it real quick, pocket pair 8's over there is pretty big. And this is not a full house, just to remind you guys. So the 4 of a kind 9's over here wins, and I just put it with it. If you have more room, it'd be easier to do this, but I don't. And here we have 3 of a kind 7, or 4 of a kind 7's over here. Just because I'm gonna swap this out. This is a much more interesting board. It's harder to read, which is more challenging. So the first thing I'm looking for is I see a king. Do I have anything that goes with it? Yes, the ace. So it's kings full of aces up here. All right. Now I'm gonna see, can I beat kings full of aces? The only way to do it would be quad 7s. We know we don't have that because we just put one of the 7s away. What about aces? Does anyone have pocket aces? No, they don't. So now we know that this one goes up here, and you kind of see how we're looking for it in that fashion. And then the last board here, I need all the space I can get. So the last board here, there's no possible flush. We do have jacks up there. So I see a jack over here. This is the only jack that I've got here, and this jack does not have another card that matches. So there's no possible straight here. There's no possible flush here. So now we're just looking for pocket pairs. The pocket pair of 8s does not match any of these. The pocket pair of 5s does. So it looks like the 5s full are probably going to end up being the best. So it's going to be 5s full of jacks, right? And just to confirm that, yep. So that looks like that one goes over here. So that's another exercise that you can do. And then you would deal out another 8 hands if you wanted, and you would do it again. And look, this is a lot to look at, and I explained it super quick without a ton of detail, but this is something that if you try it and you are the one in control of it, you can figure out the answer to this stuff on your own. You go at your pace, and the more you do it, the better you get at it. So I do want to say thank you to everybody for joining and watching this video, and this is my little shortcut at home trick to read Omaha hands quickly and get experience. Thanks.